Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. It's been a while, but I'm back and I'm here to tackle this mid-century China hutch. It is actually just the lower portion. I'm going to be redoing it and taking it from a hutch to a dresser. As always, I like to start by taking everything apart and assessing if there is any damage or anything that I need to focus on before I can start the transformation. So I start by removing all the doors, and this one doesn't really have any drawers except for the middle that you will see a little bit later in the video, but I like to take all of the hardware off and just really get a good look at what I'm working on. Just like I said in the beginning of the video, it's been quite a while since I've been back. I have been doing projects out of my garage, but I haven't been posting any videos. I just don't have the time to, do the family stuff, go to work, and then also make videos out of the stuff that I like to do in my garage. But I am trying to change that and offer up a little bit more videos, so that way everybody gets a look at the current projects that I'm working on. And some of these are actually projects that I had already completed months ago and had already sold, so I'm just trying to catch up on all my videos. Now that I have everything taken apart, I can move on to kind of just starting to clean this thing up. I like to use my blower to kind of get all the big debris out before I move on to using a degreaser that is watered down with a lot of water, just so you don't use the concentrated solution, which can get very tacky, and then you have to go over with water anyway. So cleaning everything, I did notice that this piece is in really good shape. It just has some nicks and minor scratches just from normal wear and tear. And I have a pretty cool idea for this, and you'll see it later, but I am going to start with 150 grit and strip this thing down to bare wood. And then I do also go over it with 220 grit just to get some of the swirls out. I don't really show that in the video because sanding is pretty boring, and I don't want to bore everybody with all of that. So now that all the raw wood is exposed, I really like the raw color, but I wanted to tone down the yellow and the orangish a little bit, so I decided to use a whitewash by Varathane. I really like this product because you don't have to mix your own whitewash with paint and water, and one of the things that I found with paint and water wash is if you don't wipe it fast enough, it tends to dry very quickly, causing splotchiness. So this is a pretty foolproof way to get a whitewash, especially for beginners, and I highly recommend it. As you can see in this clip, I'm only whitewashing the legs because I wanted to keep that center panel in its original form, so that way I can paint that later, so there was no reason for me to sand that down to bare wood. Once I'm done whitewashing everything, I move on to a polyurethane in a satin color. This is a water-based polyurethane. I really love this stuff. It dries quick and allows me to do multiple coats in one day. So before I move on to the paint process, I like to do all my sealing of the raw wood, because later on in the video I will tape and mask it all off, so that way I can start the paint process. Between every coat of the clear finish, I like to give it a light scuff sand with 400 grit sandpaper, and I tend to use the same piece of 400 grit sandpaper over a long period of time because you really don't need to scratch it or create a bonding surface. You just really want to knock down any rough feel to it and add your next coat, and the more you do that, the better you get a nice smooth finish. And I typically do 3 to sometimes 4 coats of the clear coat. One of the reasons I like to start with raw wood and finish it before I start the paint process is because I've tried doing the paint process first and it always doesn't work out, because anytime I do clear coat, any kind of mist or overspray that you get on the paint, even if you protect it, I don't like to mask off paint because you run the risk of pulling the paint off when you use your tape. So if you can, always start with the raw wood polyurethane finish first. I'm using a natural colored wood filler to fill in all the holes of the old hardware, and in this clip you'll see that I didn't fill the center one because I decided to reuse it, but then later on I kind of changed my mind and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. The color I decided to go with was a really charcoal gray that I have, and you can't see it in this clip, but I do mix this with a little bit of water because I am using an HVLP spray gun, and if you don't water it down, the paint is not going to come out very well and it can be too thick and just totally make a mess. So as you can see here, I am laying on a thin coat of gray, and I'm not really sure how I felt about the gray at the time, but I did decide to change it over to black, and the gray just kind of acted as a primer, so it wasn't a waste of time. So one of those last minute decisions that I didn't get to film was just putting down that natural wood filler to cover those holes, because I had an idea to change the hardware last minute because I seen some really nice pulls that I wanted to put on here and the original ones just weren't going to work out. At this point, all of the paint is done. I did about 4 coats of the black with 1 coat of the gray underneath, acting as a primer. And now it's time to reassemble everything. I get to put on all of the door hinges and the door mags. And this is by far one of my favorite parts, because now all of the hard work is done and I get to reassemble everything and take a good look at what the product is going to look like in the end. And we will soon get to that in a moment. The old hardware used a really big brass plate with a single pull in the middle, but I found these really nice pulls on Amazon that are also brass, but they were a 2-hole, so I had to kind of use a jig to mark out those holes for the new handles. And once I put them on, I tell you, it was the best decision I could have made for this piece, because it really fits this piece as if it was original to it, but it makes it a lot more modern looking while still sticking with that same curvature and shape of this piece. Once I was done putting all the handles on, I kind of forgot about the feet and that they were wrapped in brass, but they were really tarnished and had a lot of overspray on them, so I decided to just scuff them down and mask everything off and use a gold metallic paint to match the brass handles. And although I wish I could have just polished them up, they did have a lot of dings and dents in them, so it just wasn't really worth it to polish them, and I decided to just paint them. The legs are nice and painted. The only thing left to do is remove all of the masking paper and the masking tape to reveal that very nice whitewashed natural wood against that dark black paint. And this has to be my favorite color combination. And the only thing left to do is to put those natural whitewashed drawers back in, and it's time to see the final piece. I could be biased because I'm the one doing all the work, but I absolutely love this piece and I think it came out amazing. The color combination is one of my favorites, light wood with black. It's just timeless and classic, and at the end of every video I like to go over some of the numbers, and believe it or not, I did get this piece for free. It came with a display cabinet above it as a China hutch. I still have that piece, not sure what I'm going to do with it, but I did post this for sale and sold it for $700, and it was well worth it because I only had to put a little bit of money by buying the drawer handles, because everything else I already have in stock because I like to buy in bulk. Thank you everyone for sticking with me to the end of this video, and I hope to be posting some more, so just hang in there, and again, thank you very much.